See? Now this is one of those spots where your lasso can go crazy out of control and leave you behind. See where that is? This area here, I was just pointing with my finger, which you can't see. This area right here is not going to be the color of the interior jacket that I wanted. So that's where a good amount of keeping an eye on where you're sticking your lasso can go. And by the way, people who are still mystified by the little circles, it doesn't have to be a circle. It's just me doing the fastest swooping motion possible. Seriously, there's nothing magical about anything I do. It's all very basic. So see how we have a separation here. The only places that are green now are the trim on the jacket and his face. Well, because this area is separate from those other green ones, I don't even have to use a magic wand. I'll just lasso around that area, making sure that I've got all this green that I want encased. Then pick my next color. Back to the line art, or back to the color layer, and blam. Now this one I am going to have to use the magic wand because it's touching the green that makes up his face. Expand. But shortcut being, everything else is already flat filled to the edge, so no more Mr. Clean lasso. Just go crazy with it. Dun, dun, dun. And there you have the whole thing separated, leaving the face as the only spot. Ooh, dead pixel. See, this is one of those areas I was talking about that I missed. You're going to have this little green bastard here. It's covered by the line art, but still, you kind of want to just cover your bases. Wrong selection. Select, expand. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but right outside my working window here, there's a baby crying and a Harley Davidson engine going, and that's putting a really weird picture in my head of biker babies. Somebody copyright that and make a movie out of it, I'll probably watch it. And now that we have just his face left, his eyes are colored, everything else is colored, I'm just going to drop fill a color for his face. Ta-da! And that, because you're going to be coloring within a color, which was the lime green, the base color, you don't actually need to select anything. Once again, I'm pointing with my fingers. Why can't I get it through my head that you people can't see me? Gah! Anyhow, that is your flat fill coloring. Everything's separated. There's no more greens. Everything is going right up against each other. This will make your coloring a lot cleaner. Flat out. My vocabulary is gone. I usually use big words, but tonight we're not. Nothing pretentious. So here's where your game changes up a little bit. What I've done right here is, as though we're going to be flatting, I selected the line art. Copy layer, not going to need it. In fact, you don't even need the line art copy layer anymore. Gone, trashed. Back to the regular line art layer, which, because it's not so sharp, kind of gives a slightly more animated feel to it, because it gives a sense of motion in a static picture. I may be full of crap. That's what I believe. So we're going to start making our selections on the color layer. Don't need the line art layer pretty much at all except for detailing. But we're going to leave it on just for the sake of seeing Gambit's ugly face. So we're going to go back up here, and we're going to take off contiguous. Because at this point, with flat coloring, cell shaded style, you pretty much want to have a uniform look to things. That's a total lie. It's going to be up to you if you want this. This is the way I work. So there is no right and wrong to this. It's just how I know what I'm doing. I also take this tolerance here, going from the magical 230, which will select everything. If you want to see, plop, everything. Every color that's touching is somewhat similar to the next in this palette, so it's going to select everything. Instead, I go back up to tolerance of 1. Contiguous off. Make sure your anti-alias is off. Then you're going to go and you're going to select one color. Ta-da! It's as though everything were just magic. But it's not. It's magic wand. Okay, so it's magic. Anyhow, this is how I shade. A lot of people do this differently. I explained on the other video that I tend to use the freeform lasso because it's more organic. And that's true. A lot of people use the polygonal lasso or even use the pencil tool to do their rendering and their shading to change the shapes of stuff. I like the freeform tool because it makes things organic. It makes things get shape, and when you have a cartoony style like I do, if you don't do that, it could end up looking really flat. Like Tsunade's boob on the other picture. So I'm just going to do some quick selections here, and I'll be quiet for a minute, other than cursing myself for making bad selections. And for those of you who don't know, pick a light source. You know, generally speaking, if you're just going to do this for fun, it's not for work, it's not for craziness, just get into the habit of picking a light source and working with it so you understand where shadows are cast. I'm not professional at it. I should be because I do this for a living. But for the most part, you understand that your light source is going to be coming from one direction. In most cases. You're going to have bounces, but that's a whole different ball of shit that I'm not going to get into. So my light source is coming from this direction. So we're going to make some selections in his hair that says, hey, look at me, I'm in the shadows. Even though that's not a Cajun accent, but then again, who's ever heard a proper Cajun accent except for Cajuns? It's not right on True Blood. It's never been right in the X-Men cartoons, for God's sakes. And generally speaking, I don't think Cajuns actually exist. They're an imaginary character that rides unicorns with Neil Patrick Harris through the fields while chomping down on mushrooms. Don't quote me on that. I read it somewhere.